Brienne was born on the island of Tarth, which is in the Stormlands right off the coast of Westeros. She is the only surviving child of Selwyn Tarth, and she's a total badass. I'm pressed to say that Brienne is probably my favorite character in all of A Song of Ice and Fire. She really has it worse than most of the other characters. I mean, think about it. The shit Tyrion goes through times 5. Brienne is not only a woman in a man's world, she's playing a man's game, and she's better at it than most of them. And that adds to part of the reason why she's despised wherever she goes. She's kind of looked at as a freak. Women laugh at her, people play cruel games on her. So this one time, when Brienne goes to Highgarden to serve Renly, she notices that all the knights there are suddenly starting to be really nice to her, bringing her flowers, offering her gifts. So Randall Tarley summons her to his pavilion, and he tells her that the reason these men have been so nice to her is because they were betting on who could bed her first. He tells her that he put an end to it, but he also tells her that it was her fault and that she encouraged it, and it was her fault simply because she was a woman. If a woman will behave like a camp follower, she cannot object to being treated like one. A war host is no place for a maiden. If you have any regard for your virtue or the honor of your house, you will take off that mail, return home, and beg your father to find a husband for you. I came to fight, to be a knight. The gods made men to fight and women to bear children. A woman's war is in the birthing bed. Brienne has had a pretty hard life. She's been betrothed 3 times, but she's been in love with Renly Baratheon ever since he came to Tarth when she was a little girl and danced with her. So when she gets the chance to join Renly's Rainbow Guard, it's almost the closest thing to happiness that she's ever had. She gets to be close to the man that she's been in love with for so long, and when he dies, that anger stays, and that's anger towards Stannis. I absolutely love Brienne and Jaime's relationship in the books. When it starts off, we really don't know Brienne very well yet, and we pretty much hate Jaime, but as the story goes on, we start to like both of them more and more, and we start to warm up to both of their characters as they start to warm up to each other. I think the turning point for Brienne and Jaime's relationship is when Jaime gets his hand chopped off, and Brienne has to kind of show him how to survive as a cripple, because that's what she's been her whole life essentially. Not literally, of course, but she's an outcast, someone that's shunned from society, bastards, cripples, and broken things. Those are themes that show up again and again throughout the series. One reason I really like Brienne is because she's a nomad. She's not really tied to any of the major houses. I mean, she's on a quest for Lady Stark, and she's doing that whole thing, but for the most part, she's following the interest that she's following because of her own honor. Brienne's chapters in A Feast for Crows are my favorite, not just of her chapters, but of all of the chapters. Her journey from King's Landing to finding Lady Stoneheart is phenomenal. Okay, so here's the deal. In my opinion, the Game of Thrones team completely botched Brienne's story in Season 5. Basically, she was just a plot device to have an epic death for Stannis. Honestly, if you haven't read the books, it's worth just going through A Feast for Crows and reading her chapters. I mean, read the whole book, read all of them, but if you're not going to read thousands of pages, just read Brienne's chapters, you won't be disappointed. Brienne is perhaps the most tragic main character. I mean, she will never fit in. I mean, Tyrion had his name, Tyrion had his money, well, not anymore, obviously, but he did that to himself. He put his trust in a whore that sold him out the first chance she got, and he could have seen through it if he just looked. He publicly threatened and struck on multiple occasions the king, who was despised by everyone and bound to be murdered. It's not Tyrion's fault that he's a dwarf, but him overstepping and putting his trust in the wrong people is what landed him in such a bad situation. I mean, yes, Brienne chose to go off and put on a suit of armor and fight as a man, but she's much more a victim of circumstance. She looks more normal in armor than she does in a dress. There's no place where she could go where she wouldn't be viewed in disgrace, where she wouldn't just be like a big ugly woman. Not to mention she could just be raped at any given time. Hardly anyone is even willing to help her with anything. Go where you will and do as you will, but when you're raped, don't look to me for justice. You will have earned it with your folly. I think in A Feast for Crows, which is my favorite book, ha 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 ha, Brienne's story is very reminiscent of The Lord of the Rings. She's on a quest, and it's kind of an epic adventure, and there's action, and there's like ancient ruins. But at the same time, it's paced very well, and you get really invested, and you love even the minor characters that show up in those chapters. The Maiden of Tarth is a fighter. She is someone that truly deserves respect, but gets none. Not only is she physically strong, she has a lot of willpower. Emotionally, she puts up with a lot of shit. And I really connect with Brienne, as a lot of people do. There's something about the story of an outcast that appeals to me, and the way Martin tells it is excellent. I mean, she just wants happiness like everyone else. She wants to be a knight, let her be a knight. I am hoping and praying that Brienne at least dies a knight. Please, Martin, let Brienne have that final moment of honor before you snuff her out completely. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe for more ideas of Ice and Fire.